my wife and I have been members of NAACP for a good while now, and I think it's those memories that, plus all that's been happening now in our national life has brought back. It just seems like we've made more steps forward and 10 back, and it's so tragic and so sad. And it does remind me very much of the experience in Selma. As you might suspect, there were a lot of wonderful, caring people in that community. And, but then, as there is everywhere, it's tragic how people treat each other. And as far as a specific instance, I think it's those memories that have caused me to be more of an advocate. And I have to admit that I've been very faithfully involved in the pro-reconciliation, anti-racism classes that our denomination and church requires for us as clergy. And in fact, it was when I was in Northeast Ohio, the first time I was in one of those conferences, and just discovering to me how pervasive that just systemic racism is, that you don't even realize it happens in your attitudes and everything. I think they were very careful to help, for my age and understanding, to unpack what was going on. I think the most profound experiences I had were with people that I directly related to. I had a Sunday school teacher that was just beloved dearly by all, and a very faithful elder in the church. And my dad ran an automotive garage and stuff, and my father one day was by to see him and was purchasing some tires, and he said, "Preacher, just go around behind the garage here, and I have a new set of these tires on my car. You can see what they're like and see what you think." And it was at that point that my dad saw in the back seat the hood and the hole, and he just was pretty upset. He decided just to go on back to the church and to home, and he got a call early that evening. And the gentleman had asked him, said, "Preacher, can you meet me at the church?" And Dad said, "Sure." And when he got there, he was sitting on the front steps and had a box, and he was crying, and he was in tears, and he was apologizing, so sad that he saw that. And it did change his life, a very human experience. And then the other one that sticks so clearly in my mind, relationships in schools with folks, but the one that sticks, I was so close to the Mac and Emma, who were and I don't, for this sake is good, I probably don't even remember their last name, but they had been the faithful building and maintenance persons at the church. And as a young kid, when I would go down for swimming lessons downtown at the Y and stuff, I would be there, and Mac would be there, and he was the first one to always play ping pong with me. And Mac was like a grandfather. And I remember as a kid being hurt inwardly when my father, for about 2 weeks, needed to pick Mac and Emma up at their home to take them to the church for their work, and to take them home, simply because it wasn't safe for them, to travel themselves. And I couldn't understand why. And that's where my parents were able to share with me. And, and even now I cannot fathom, but that's how they helped me embrace a little bit of the reality. I think that, of course, John Lewis and others, but I think, I don't want to, this may seem trite, but I think Dr. King was the hero. He was not only a profound man of God, but he was a very down-to-earth, as my father related with his personal relationship with him. And I think that I do believe firmly that he was a man sent from God. He had a special calling and a special mantle placed upon him. And he was not only a modern day prophet, but he was the social conscience, not only for, I think he was the social conscience in that period for our whole nation. I remember the day coming home in carpool from elementary school when we first heard the assassination of John Kennedy and the assassinations that occurred through that period. And I know, not to state any political preference necessary, that my parents were very proud, so tragically impacted by the assassination, but proud that Lyndon Johnson, when he was elected, because he had a strong commitment to continuing what the voter rights, and my mom and dad witnessed the lining up for the first voter registration there in Selma. And I think a lot of Christian people were hurt by what was going on. But it is also, I have to say, it is like today. I find it difficult in my heart to understand why, quite frankly, and I'm going to say this as a minister, quite frankly, some upstanding Christian people take the attitude that they do now. And that to me is very, very reflective of what was going on, not only in Selma, Alabama, but across the nation from 1961 to 1966. And very, very, it's terrible that, I'm not going to say I think we're beyond that, but I am just absolutely astounded where we are today. Well, it governs obviously every aspect of my life, and it has been my life for all these many years, the church and what it represents. We're all one in Jesus Christ, and one in faith, brothers and sisters, and we're neither, as the scripture says, the Apostle Paul put it so well, neither Greek nor Jew, nor male nor female, nor black nor white. And that is the tragedy that I think that we're seeing. And as a, not to put too fine a point on it, but if we proclaim to be a Christian nation, we certainly don't always act that way. I believe that there's that inherent possibility in every human heart. And I think we are so polarized in our nation right now, and we've had such influences that have caused, and for political expediency has been played upon. And I'm sure throughout our nation's history that racial division has been played upon as a means of controlling people and as a means of political ends. How we come together, we've got to realize that when we get down to it, that we're all basically children of God. Whether we're Muslim, whatever our religious background, Jewish, Christian, you name it. And I think we're going to have to step up and realize that if we're going to claim to be a Christian nation, we're going to have to abide by the morals and the directions that, be it Christianity or all the other faiths that parallel and reflect these same moral standards. We're going to have to return to that. How do we do it? It has to start on an individual, person-to-person basis. And I think that when we encounter, and I think if we're going to be faithful to our tradition and to our faith, even if it's a close friend, we're going to have to say, that's not right. Now, Joe, you don't mean that, and here's why you don't mean that. And I think people are afraid to do that, but that's what it's going to take. And it's going to take one. It can't be legislated. It's going to have to come from individual people and individual people's hearts. I'm sure this is not the reason or cause. One thing I do remember, and I remember my parents instilling this in me, that in this life, human beings, I think, have an innate desire, for whatever reason, to be better than someone else. Okay? And let's see how I can tactfully say this. I think in some degrees, well, we know from our history, but in the Deep South, I think the black person, the black man or woman, were seen not their equal. And I'm not talking about whether we had water fountains with colored, where you specified water fountains, or in restaurants, and I'm talking about the just, and people had and I think really part of that has to do with education. And I don't want to make a blanket general statement here, but I do remember, and I remember parents sharing that with me, that some of the most biased, difficult racial hatred were by groups of people who were, and this is a judgment I guess, but were not as informed educationally. Am I making sense? And because of lack and because of certain people's lack themselves and their feelings of inadequacy, they have to find someone else to be able to feel that they stand above them. And there was a lot of that going on. The advice I would give is to be bold, to speak out. I think, and I'm speaking as someone I'm 67, and my generations and the generations where we've made a lot of mistakes. And it's time for healing, and I think our future is in our younger generation. My daughter, she's 33, and she does not see in her heart. She sees what's happening and everything, but she does not see this separation at all. And she does not see through the lens that I grew up. And I think that's where the future is. And as far as, and I think the rights that we have here in the United States of America, I think protest is important. That's why historically, where would we be today if it had not been for, and of course, Dr. King always spoke of peaceable protest. And I think we're going to have to be very careful as we go into the future to call out and recognize, regardless of which spectrum you're on, where radicalism is hurting the cause for everyone. And I think that I feel good that the younger generation that I know that realize that whether it's Black Lives Matter or whether it's, and I mean, I'll not mention the other, but how, we've got to realize that some of this agitation, and I think peaceful protest is important, and I think the younger generations coming on, I would hope that they could, and of course they have the lens of their parents and everything, but I would hope that there would be enough of our younger generations that would be able to experience what I experienced through parents or older mentors that can share with them not only the importance for them to be very proactive, but to realize that this is not good.
That's great.
And our future depends upon it. I think the COVID virus has shown us, and I'm not saying that that this was anything of God's making at all. I do not believe that for obvious reasons. But I think what it has shown us, it's shown us that disparity between. And it's also shown us that if we're gonna be the people that we say we are, then we have no excuses. And of course, the valiant heroes on the front line and our medical and all, I mean, to be absolutely praised. The encouraging good news and nationally right now that's captured the media stream. I'm so sorry that it's the pandemic, but I praise God that there is a positive media stream right now. And what media stream, what it's reflecting is that we are one people, and we've got to act as one people. That's the only way that we're going to survive, whether it's a pandemic or anything else we've talked about. Well, other than, I guess, the fact that I'm sorry that we're still fighting these battles and these struggles here in the 21st century in 2020 going into 2021. And I know whether it's parents or and colleagues in ministry through the years that have been on the front lines of these struggles. And there's been a lot of hearts broken. There's been a lot of lives lost, and it's sad that we are still. But maybe, and it's my prayer that with everything beginning to move out into the open, that we can move forward